Welcome to KGW News at 4 o'clock. We begin this hour with a live look from our Rose City Skycam. You can see a lot of clouds out there, but the rain is holding off until the weekend. Joe Ranieri will have more for us in 10 minutes. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on this Thursday.
Here's what's happening. Nicholas Kristof will not be in the running for Oregon governor. His campaign now on a deadline to distribute millions of dollars in donated funds.
The family of Genoa Donald, who was shot and killed by deputies in 2021, is suing Clark County. They argue the traffic stop was illegal and this wrongful death could have been avoided.
And Multnomah County commissioners vote to pass a new wood smoke ordinance. It extends a seasonal rule to a year-round advisory.
There is big news for Washington residents today. Governor Jay Inslee just announced mask requirements will end in about a month for most indoor settings, including schools. KGW's Tim Gordon is live in the newsroom with more on this, Tim.
Well, Laurel, Governor Inslee made the announcement this afternoon that March 21st is the date that we can lose the masks in most public settings, from churches to retail stores to restaurants, and as you mentioned, a big one, schools. But the mask rules will continue in some key places. Now, this is the breakdown, and you can see on the left, masks will still be required in healthcare and medical facilities, public transit, school buses too, also correctional facilities, and any business or local government that wants to keep a requirement in place. The universal mandate has been in place since last August in Washington, but Inslee says thanks to following the science and Washington residents doing the right things, health experts project hospitalization rates to drop enough by March 21st to be safe to unmask.
And we think this is both good for our health and our education of our children and the total reopening of our economy. And we should be very pleased with the progress we have made. And I want to thank Washingtonians who have put us in a position to be able to make this progress.
Now, the governor and health officials say it is important to keep masking inside over the next few weeks. And Clark County Public Health saying this afternoon, quote, masks will continue to be an effective tool for further reducing virus transmission in our community. But they went on to say they are optimistic that case rates will drop and that virus transmission will be much lower by the time the mandate is lifted on March 21st. And in the meantime, an outdoor mask mandate for crowds of 500 or more ends tomorrow in Washington. Laurel?
Thank you, Tim. And meanwhile, in Oregon, the indoor mask mandate will end no later than March 31st. Individual schools and businesses are still deciding if they will drop the requirement too. And Portland Public Schools is shifting its requirements. Starting on March 1st, outdoor masking on campuses will become optional, and in-person school events will resume. PPS will still follow OHA's indoor mask mandate. We'll continue to track plans from local school districts and businesses as Oregon's mask mandate ends. We'll have updates for you on air and online at kgw.com.
The Oregon Supreme Court ruled today that former New York Times columnist Nicholas Kristof cannot run for governor this year. Our Pat Doris joins us now. And Pat, you had a chance to read the court's opinion. So what's the key point here?
Well, anyone running for governor in Oregon must be a state resident for at least 3 years before the election. So the question became, did Kristof physically have a residence in Oregon since November of 2019? And did he show intent that Oregon was his home state? The court ended up focusing on intent and found he did not, making him ineligible to run. Today, Nicholas Kristof appeared a bit shell-shocked by the decision. He's been campaigning around the state and gathering money for what would have been a significant challenge for governor. He's raised $2.5 million, and his campaign still has $1.6 million in the bank. What will happen to that money now?
You know, we're going to have to sort out what we do with the donations. I just haven't had a moment to think about it. That's going to, and I don't fully understand the legal issues involved. I'm going to have to sort that out.
The Secretary of State's office said his campaign will have as long as it needs to decide what happens with that money. It can be used in several different ways, including being given to another campaign committee or returned to donors. Secretary of State Shemaiah Fagan held a news conference to highlight the fact that the state Supreme Court agreed with her office that Kristof is not eligible to run for governor.
Well, I'm sure he's very disappointed. Thank you, Pat. And we have an update to a story we have been following all week. A homeless man attacked in Old Town over the weekend has died. The assault happened Sunday morning near Northwest 3rd and Gleason. 46-year-old James Anthony Wise was unconscious when officers found him, and he died 2 days later. Investigators call the attack a terrible crime.
The disregard for the value of a human life was particularly jarring in this case. So we really want to make sure that we are getting the word out that we need help from the public on this case. We want witnesses to come forward, anybody who has information about this case. We really want to get justice for this victim.
The attack happened across the street from the Blanchet House, a nonprofit that provides food and shelter to the homeless. The executive director tells us Wise lived in a tent outside the Blanchet House and would come regularly for meals. They say Wise will be missed.
The family of Genoa Donald, who was shot and killed by a Clark County deputy last year, is now suing Clark County and the sheriff's office. KGW's Bryant Clerkley joins us now. And Bryant, what is the family seeking from this lawsuit?
Well, Brittany, the family says they want justice, accountability, and policy changes like more training for law enforcement so something like this never happens again.
My son's not coming back. He was shot in the head by a Clark County sheriff.
In February of 2021, Clark County Deputy Sean Boyle shot 30-year-old Genoa Donald after a traffic stop over a broken taillight in the Hazeldale neighborhood. Donald died a week later. Now Donald's family is suing Clark County. In a press conference, Donald's mother, Sue Zawacki, spoke about what the family is seeking from this federal lawsuit against the county.
Something's got to change. You can train, but you've got to get that mindset. You got to get some better vetting. Period. And that's what I would hope would come out of all this for everybody.
The wrongful death lawsuit alleges assault and battery, negligence, and deprivation of civil rights. The lawsuit further states Clark County has a policy, custom, and established practice of failing to train its officers to use deadly force as only a last resort. Mark Lindquist of Herman Law Group is the family's lawyer.
So we're seeking justice, we're seeking accountability, and we are hoping that Clark County, going forward, does a better job of training officers on the use of deadly force as a last resort.
Clark County Deputy Sean Boyle shot and killed Donald during a traffic stop after the two got into a physical altercation. Donald was not armed, although another deputy mistakenly thought she saw a weapon in the car. It turned out to be a screwdriver. A panel of 5 prosecutors who reviewed the case found that Deputy Sean Boyle was legally justified in shooting Donald and should not face criminal charges. Despite not facing criminal charges, the lawsuit argues deputies failed to de-escalate before shooting Donald, which could have prevented his death.
Had these deputies practice just elementary de-escalation techniques, we wouldn't be here and Genoa would still be alive.
I reached out to the Clark County Sheriff's Office for comment, and they said that they don't want to comment on the litigation at this time. Back to you.
Thank you, Bryant. Oregon lawmakers are working on a new bill that aims to reduce traffic stops for certain equipment violations. That means you could not get pulled over for just a broken taillight, but you could still be cited for it if you're stopped for a more serious violation. The bill also requires officers to tell drivers they have a right to refuse a search of their car and get their consent documented. Supporters say the bill is an effort to prevent people of color from being disproportionately stopped by police.
Multnomah County residents will need to check the air quality before burning throughout the year. It's part of the new wood smoke ordinance county commissioners adopted by emergency declaration today. The new ordinance strengthens a rule created in 2018, which limits wood burning from October through March. That advisory will now be in place year-round. The ordinance also eliminates an exemption for wood burning stoves unless it's the only source of heat for your home. And it removes the term green day, which applies to days when there isn't an advisory in effect. Simple enough, when the air quality is poor, just don't burn.
A woman in Longview with limited mobility is now forced to walk or take the bus to get around. That's because her only form of transportation, an electric tricycle, was stolen for the second time. Here's Christelle Kumway.
Well, I was born and raised in Longview.
Deborah Treat is well known in her Longview community.
Everybody around town knows me by my bike. Everywhere I go, people stop, oh, is that an electric bike? Cool.
The 61-year-old is disabled and uses the electric tricycle to get around to school and doctor's appointments since she can't walk for too long.
Yeah, walking, like I said, maybe 5 miles a day with my bike. Oh my gosh, that feels like freedom. I can go 30, 35 miles a day.
Last Thursday, Treat was robbed of that freedom. Her electric tricycle was stolen from her carport for the second time.
Oh, I actually broke down and cried for at least 3 hours. But this time I had 3 padlocks on it. I thought maybe it'd stay this time.
She now has to walk or catch a bus to get around.
It makes me feel trapped.
The first tricycle was stolen in 2020. Treat spent 6 months saving up for the most recent one.
$2,700, which may not seem like much to some people, but if you're on a fixed income, it takes a while.
She started a GoFundMe in hopes of reclaiming her freedom for good.
I want to get insurance on it and an alarm so this time it won't happen again. I'm going to make it as most impossible as possible.
Longview police say there are no suspects or leads in this case. If you'd like to help Deborah, we'll have a link on our website. I'm Christelle Kumwe for KGW News.